I think you reading that article, it actually, and also returning, sorry, let me just consent that it's fine that I'm recorded here. So you reading that article actually is a good introduction for the whole session, because I'm a strong believer of how we have to look at the world of work and what does it require in order for us to get ready to make a career decision. So getting ready to, why did I choose that topic? Choosing a career is probably one of the most important decisions that all of us have to make in some point in our lives. So it could be during school, it could be mid-career, and even when we retire. It's not the end of the path for us. You still have to think, okay, what am I going to do when I'm retiring? And that's maybe a different kind of career that you have to follow. It's definitely one of the most important milestones in one's development. And although we know that choosing a career is nowadays definitely not a once-off event, like, for example, a few decades ago, where someone decided on a career path, they qualified themselves, they went into a career, and they very often went into a job and they remained in that one job for the rest of their lives. But it's completely different these days. Up until retirement, people very often, if I think about my parents, for example, they started as teachers, they retired as teachers. But nowadays, choosing a career may rather be seen as a continuous or a series of events or choices that we have to make throughout our lives. So regardless of where you find yourself in this journey, I hope that today's session will be meaningful to you as well. So if we look at today's session, what I'll be focusing on is an introduction of why we have to, or why I think about careers as I do. Then we will focus a lot on how we have to take note of the world of work and how we have to gain knowledge about the world of work. And then we are going to focus also on knowing myself, although the biggest focus of today's session will not be that, and hopefully you'll understand my thinking around this as we go along. And then collecting experiences is another topic that we, or a topic that we will be focusing on. And hopefully by the end, we will also have some time for questions and answers. So I have been introduced to you, and but maybe as not because I like myself too much, but I think I serve as a good example of careers and career development. If I just look at my own career, so please, it's just part of the demonstration as to how careers also work and how things unfold while you are working. So maybe a brief introduction about myself. I have a huge interest in career psychology. And maybe to start off with by saying that I finished high school in 1986, and you'll realize in a while why I'm saying this. So I completed high school. I studied one degree. I studied classical music, and then I went into teaching. And after that, I went back full-time to university. I studied psychology. I became a counseling psychologist. I did my internship at the Free State University Student Counseling Center. And if you think about what a psychologist does at such a center, it's focusing a lot on making career choices and looking at skills that's necessary to make career choices. And I think that's where my whole interest in this whole topic also started. So it's a very long time ago. After that, I went into private practice, where I've done a lot of career assessments and career counseling sessions. And then for some reason, I didn't choose that. I followed my husband. We moved to Stellenbosch, where I didn't have a job, but I did find a job at the University Career Center. And I could use the skills that I've collected while I've done my internship and while I've been in private practice. I could use that to sell myself and to sell my skills to the university and where I worked in the Career Center. And then I went back to the University of Johannesburg, not because I chose to, but because I followed my husband, who's also an academic. And there I ended up, after a couple of different positions, I ended up in the psychology department as a senior lecturer, where I focused mostly on development psychology and then, of course, also career psychology. And my research specifically focused on career development in tough times, also career development of women specifically. So again, using the skills and using the interests that I've collected over the years. And then in 2012, I moved to JVR Academy, where maybe just tell you a little bit about JVR Academy. We do a professional development of psychologists. We also do professional development of teachers, for example, or other people registered with the Health Professions Council. But then we also focus a lot on behavioral development, presenting behavioral development programs in organizations and in schools. And many of these programs, or actually most of them, are in line with the behaviors that are needed for the new world of work. So whether it is conflict management in a team of a big organization, for example, you will see later on that something like conflict management or good interpersonal relationships are actually regarded as something that's extremely important in the world of work. And then, of course, JVR Academy has a little sister called JVR for Youth, where we do a lot of youth development work and including career development programs. So again, that's my whole history. And maybe also to give you an indication that I have a very long CV, but it is a very, I would like to think, a very integrated CV. And compared to previously, a few decades ago, people would frown upon new employees with long CVs because they would say, but you are not stable in your job, you move jobs often and so on. But these days, if someone has been in one job for their whole life, I would frown upon them because I would say, tell me about your experiences and tell me a little bit more about things that you collected and tell me, how did you learn while you've been in this one job all your life? So I think what is very important is your CV should reflect your many different decisions that you've made, but there must be also a fine line or a golden thread that runs through your CV to show that you've actually collected experiences and you can actually transfer these experiences into your current job as well. So maybe if I can just ask in the chat box, and I'm asking this question to the audience now, how experienced are you in making career decisions? And I'll also open the chat box on my side and just get a brief indication of the audience, because I've told you about myself now. Now I would like to know a little bit more about you. So maybe just type in, you can either type in little bit experience or no experience or lots of experience. Or you can just type 1, 2, or 3, if that's easier as well. So I see we have no experience, a little bit of experience, lots of experience, a little bit, lots. Let's wait for 1 or 2 more people, because it looks to me as if we have quite a variety of experience in terms of career decisions. Okay, so that really helps me to pitch the presentation to the audience. Now, if we talk about making career decisions or experiencing in doing that, I'm not only talking about what you feel where you feel that you have made a good career decision. Remember, even if you make a bad career decision, at the time that you made the decision, you thought it was a good decision. And that is all experiences in decision making that you gained. So, good. So when we look at a career model, a typical career development model would look like this, for example. At the bottom, at the basis, we have a self-assessment where we have to look at who am I, what are my interests, what's my skills, what's my work styles, what's my personality characteristics like, all those kinds of things that has to do with who I am. On the next level, then, we usually say, okay, now that I know who I am, let me go and explore what's out there. Let's see what's available. Those kinds of jobs that fit my skills and my interests. And of course, it makes sense to say, okay, I've got something that I can offer. Let me go and see which environments offer that. And then, of course, you will have to come up with a plan. You will have to look at which organization is a good fit, and then you will have to go into an action plan where you search for a job. Now, this is typically how it worked. We also know that if there's a good fit between a person and what the person can offer, between the person and the environment, then there's a very good chance that this person may experience a high level of job satisfaction. That's what the research has shown us. But those kind of models are more traditional models. And a couple of years back, a couple of decades back, I think that really worked quite well. But what I would like to do today is I want to turn this model a little bit upside down. So if we look at the model like I have it there, I would think that exploration, understanding what is out there, understanding the world of work is actually more important than understanding yourself. Now, I know all the psychologists or all the teachers or everyone who's part of this model or part of this session today is going to say, but Karina is crazy. How can you say that? We as psychologists, we always say self-development or development starts with the self. But today I want to say, okay, let's forget a little bit about ourselves as the first point of departure. And let's maybe focus a little bit more on what the world of work, what the world out there needs, what organizations need. And let's see if we can maybe think a little bit differently about the career process or career decision-making process. The reason why I also do this is in a VUCA world or in a world where there's a lot of uncertainty and change, high levels of unemployment, something we don't have the luxury of focusing on ourselves and say, let's mold the world to fit in with us and what we like and how we are. I actually think these days we have to mold ourselves to fit into the world of work as well. So, of course, in this model, we are not going to ignore individual differences and individual strengths, and you will also see how I will bring that in. The 21st century world, so let's start there. Now, a basic Google search that I've done I've literally typed in keywords such as the world of work or the 21st century. And a basic search, when I typed in new world of work, revealed, now I have to be careful, 8,110,000,000 results. Which is quite a lot. When I typed in future work skills, I got about 1,230,000,000 results. Okay, hopefully I've said that correctly. You know that's quite a difficult one to say. But if we look at that, it's clear then that this is really a very popular topic and looking at the world of work and what the skills are needed. So when I looked at when I've done a little bit of reading, it was clear that over the last couple of years, the new world of work and the future workplace skills have specifically also been associated with the fourth industrial revolution. And organizations such as the World Economic Forum and Harvard Business Review and Deloitte and McKinsey, they've published a lot of reports, and they've provided us with insights and trends and challenges. And of course, we also know very well that COVID has fast-tracked fundamental changes caused by the fourth industrial revolution and how we work. And having said that, I think it's important that we have to ask ourselves, what's the impact of things like the fourth industrial revolution? What's the impact of COVID, for example, on the current and on future careers? And also how we should prepare ourselves for these new careers. Now it's interesting, I've read an article, and I think it was published by the World Economic Forum, where the author said that individuals and organizations have to future-proof themselves. Now, I love that term. We have to future-proof ourselves to navigate effectively through the changes and the challenges that the current world of work and also, of course, the future world of work is posing to us. But I know when we read these articles, we very often get filled with fear and anxiety. We very often read that computers or robots will take over the jobs. And, you know, the question is, where will that leave us? So I can understand that it creates a lot of fear. For example, if I just refer to a study, and you know by now that I'm also an academic, so I will definitely always bring in the research and the models. But if I refer to a study that was done by McKinsey in 2018 already, they predicted, for example, a decrease in activities that involve physical and manual skills and basic cognitive skills. So those kind of skills are literally the more repetitive kind of skills, the skills that can be automated, the skills that artificial intelligence can actually handle equally as well as human beings can. In line with this research, McKinsey, so what they did say is higher cognitive skills and social and emotional skills and technological skills, the three bottom ones, they predict that there will be an increase in those skills by 2030. And this research actually referred to the number of hours worked per year in the United States and compared to the Western European countries, but you will see there's a big correspondence between those. And I think, you know, we don't have African or South African research, but I think we see similar trends there. So with higher cognitive skills, where you will see there will be a 9% increase in the hours of work predicted by 2030, with high cognitive skills, they include things like advanced literacy and writing, quantitative and statistical skills, creativity, critical thinking, and complex information processing. With social and emotional skills, those are the ones that we are supposed to know very well, and they refer to advanced communication, negotiation, empathy, the ability to learn continuously and to manage others, to lead yourself, and then also an important one, to be adaptable. And technological skills include things like from very basic technological skills to advanced skills, data analysis, engineering and research. Now, I mentioned previously that I completed school in 1986. And the reason why I've mentioned it there, I was curious to look at when I had to make a career decision way back then, which of those jobs or careers that I could choose from then is currently actually dying out? And it's interesting, for example, just a few that I picked up, for example, a switchboard operator, data entry clerks, word processors, typists, filing clerks. Those are the skills that, or those are the jobs that can be automated and where artificial intelligence can actually take over. So this is actually in line also with what the research showed here in terms of basic cognitive skills. Okay, so yes, we are scared. We are getting scared by computers and so, but the future of work also brings opportunities. That was actually Hegel who said in 2017, we shouldn't be scared. It brings a lot of opportunities. So technology really reduces the need for workers to complete routine and manual tasks. But if we spend less time on those repetitive manual tasks, then it gives us more time to focus on people. It gives us more time to focus on strategic problem solving, on thinking creatively. So it's actually, we shouldn't be scared. It's actually positive news. And then also I've read an article in the Harvard Business Review recently, who also highlighted several human characteristics that would be extremely relevant in the future world of work. And these would include imagination, creativity, and then also strategy. Again, the higher cognitive abilities. Among the same lines, a Deloitte report mentioned that capacity for creativity and problem solving will set one apart from others in a world of work. So you see where I'm going. If you prepare yourself for a career decision, you must make sure that you know what the world of work would need, and you will have to make sure that you are actually better in terms of creativity than the next person next to you. Okay, so the reason why things like imagination, creativity, and strategy are important skills in the new world of work is because these activities involve abilities that cannot be easily automated. And therefore, the involvement of people rather than robots is almost guaranteed. So the skills that organizations today need and in the future, after all the research that I've done, include, for example, creativity, problem solving, and of course also an understanding of how digital technology can work. Now digital skills are very often not regarded as the more people-orientated skills. It's definitely more technical skills, and some people are just more better with that than others. But if digital technology is not your strength, then you have to partner with someone that is actually good with that, and you will have to use your skills that you bring. Organizations will, these skills should also be transferable across organizations. So you should be able to, for example, if you think about problem solving, if you solve problems in one environment, you should be able to go and sell you in another environment where you say, but I am very good with problem solving. And then at least you know that that other environment also needs the problem solving. But you can't, of course, not just go and say that you can solve problems. You must build that experience. You must collect that experience, and you must have examples of where you've done that effectively. So yes, I think I'm not going to go into much detail about these different skills. There's many of them that I've mentioned. Maybe flexibility is one that I can highlight there. And innovation is also goes with the creativity, and then learning. And I'll talk a little bit later about learning as well. So just to summarize, the changes in the world of work and all the relevant literature actually shows that there are clear recurring themes in terms of the required skills to function effectively in the new world of work. And maybe to put them into categories there, you will see I've put digital skills at the bottom. That's maybe running across all of the three other areas. But these skills also refer to 21st century skills. You already seen that we've talked quite a bit about cognitive skills. So everything that has to do with cognitive skills, I've added into one category. Everything that has to do with creativity and innovation, I've added in another category. And then another one that I've added is the social one that really has to do with interpersonal relationships, social and emotional skills, leadership and communication. You will often, if you read, you will also often see that they call these 21st century skills, and they very often refer to the 4 C's of 21st century skills. Now, the first one that they refer to is critical thinking, which obviously sits in the cognitive domain. The second C is creativity, which sits in the creative domain. The third one is communicating, which sits in the 4th domain. And the 4th in the social domain. And the collaborative, the 4th C, also sits in the social domain. So whether you read about the 21st century skills, whether you read about the new world of work skills, those will be typically the skills, maybe those 4 categories that you see there. Sometimes people will also refer to these as employability skills. So the skills that are needed in order to find a job, but also in order to keep the job and also to be successful in that job. So also people that have good employability skills, they actually, if you think about the world of work currently, where there's high unemployment and where there's work environments that's marked by technological takeover, employers will have a wider audience to select from. So you will have to make sure that you stand out in terms of these skills. So employers will definitely favor those people that have better employability skills, and this will definitely be these skills. Good. So on a very practical level, and in preparation for making a career decision that's part of that includes your interest, it's important to look at job applications, to look at job adverts, whether they are in print or whether they are online, LinkedIn, or wherever you find online platforms that advertise jobs. It's quite important to look at this as well. And maybe just as a practical exercise, I've created the following for you. So let's say, for example, you look at the job, the and or the ampersand marking there is just, I've replaced the name of the company. So this was a real advert that I found online. If we look at that, just the job description and what the organization is looking for, it actually supports exactly what the research is saying. So this organization offers employment and internship opportunities to students from diverse academic backgrounds. And what are they looking for? They are looking for proven leadership experience through working with societies and or group projects. Now think about proven leadership experience. Leadership sits in the social component of the previous slide that we talked about. They are looking for people that has a strong logical, analytical, and strategic thinking that sits in the cognitive domain that we talked about. They are looking for good interpersonal skills that include conflict management, influence, negotiation, relationship building, and diversity. So that sits in the social domain or in the communication domain, if we want to go the 4 C's of 21st century skills. I'm going to skip the next one just for a moment, the academic record one, and then they're also looking for someone that's passionate about innovation and winning. Now, the winning was an interesting one, so there's a competitiveness there, but it's also showing me that I want someone that's driven and motivated. And that, of course, links onto the creative domain that we talked about on the previous slide. Of course, what is very important is not only those, or not those 4 categories, but a good academic record or good technical skills, of course, are also extremely important. So if you are good at people, managing people, or if you are good at communicating well, but if you're lazy when it comes to sitting down and studying or building your technical skills, then I've got bad news for you. You will also have to in a competitive world, you will have to have a good academic record as well. It's all good and well. Think, for example, about a medical doctor. It's all good and well if they have good interpersonal skills and if they have good bedside manners. But if they sucked, if they only got 40% for their degree, you know, I would rather not go to that doctor. I would rather go to the one that doesn't really have good interpersonal skills, but they must have a very good knowledge of science and of biology of the body and of everything that a medical doctor is supposed to know about. So I've used this example many times before, where I say the social skills, the emotional skills are very important, but we also need the technical skills. So don't forget about that. So it's like a bird with 2 wings, where we say that the more softer skills will be the one wing of the bird, and the technical or the academic skills will be the other wing. And we know that a bird cannot fly only with 1 wing, or at least not that I've seen before. Okay, so hopefully from a practical point of view, this may help you to also go through ads and link them to certain categories where you will have to be able to find, or when you're looking for a job. The next exercise, maybe just for your own record, also on a practical level, you can put, you can categorize adverbs into a table in, for example, looking at technical qualifications, and you can look at non-technical qualifications or the more softer skills. And then you can have a column for what's your experience. And then you, even if you don't have work experience, we all have experience, we all have life experience. And if you don't have, then you must go and sit down and you must go and think about, for example, if you think about leadership, where in your life, even if you've been a class captain in primary school, or is there a society, maybe you are part of a society at your church, where you take part and where you sometimes help to organize things? What are the things that you are currently involved in that you can list as your work experience or as your experience? If you think about interpersonal relationships, for example, and I see we've got a question there. I'll be with you just now, Tracy. If we look at interpersonal relationships, for example, where in your life have you gained those experiences? And think about friends, whether it's just, you know, visiting friends or communicating with your parents, and what are the things that you've learned and the kind of skills that you've gained, and you will be able to add that as well. Tracy, you would like to ask something?
Yes, thank you. So there are 2 comments that have come into our chat box. The one was from Laurie, and she said, do you by any chance have a model for entrepreneurs?
We absolutely have a model for entrepreneurs, and we actually We have courses for entrepreneurs, but we use and we have a very nice assessment that is called the Measure for Entrepreneurial Talent and Abilities, and we built that's the model that we use. So maybe Tracy, if Laurie would like to contact me afterwards, or you, or anyone, or if at one point in time we do another webinar on that, we can also do that.
Love to, thank you. And Ariella has asked, what about the weight of experience versus academic records?
Okay, I think what is, like I said, both are equally important, but we say that the academic, very often the academic record will get you the job, but your non-academic skills is the one that gets you promoted, or that keeps you, that help you to keep the job. If we think about an engineer, for example, if an engineer apply for a job, they will say you need a B.Eng degree, and everyone that apply will have to have that. I, as a psychologist, there's no ways that they will look at my fantastic non-technical skills and apply me as an engineer. So, but the engineer that will get the job is probably not always the one that did academically better, because both have the same degree, but it will also be the one that demonstrates during the interview process or during the appointment process that they also have the other non-technical skills. They are better at that. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe to also further help with the skills and to think how you've gained these experiences is in practical terms. For example, when we go through all the adverts, these are again the same kinds of things that come up. Now, if we ask about reliability, for example, what does reliability mean? Very often we think these things are far-fetched ideas, and we don't have experience in that. But if you think about a job, will you turn up? Will you go to work on time? Will you be at work every day? Will you call in for work if you are sick? So it has very much to do with responsibility. So think about activities where you had, or situations where you had to demonstrate that you are reliable. Think about if you have an appointment with friends. Do you actually turn up, or do you call them and say, I'm not coming because I don't feel like it, or do you just ignore it? So it's already, you have a lot of experiences. Same with critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Problems arise every day in our lives. Whether it's, the taxi is late, that's a problem, or the taxi didn't turn up, it's a problem. So how do you solve that problem, and how do you get around that? Organizational skills, whether you are organizing a party, your own birthday party, what are the skills that you are using? What's the process that you are using? Leadership skills, think about assertiveness. How assertive are you? And I talk about healthy assertiveness. How assertive are you? How can you demonstrate in the different kinds of environments or different situations? How can you demonstrate that? So I'm not going to go, through all of them now, but I just try to demonstrate how you can look at the important skills and how you can actually extract work experience from that you can put in your CV and that you can also sell during an interview, for example. So we talked a lot about jobs and skills, and I actually like this Deloitte quote a lot. So where they say in the 21st century, careers are no longer narrowly defined by jobs and skills. So we've talked a lot about skills, but also through experiences and learning agility. So again, yes, the technical things are important, but the experiences are important. And also we have to learn continuously. So how do we collect these experiences? Now, there's three things that I would like to focus on, and I'm aware of the time. So the first thing is starting early. The second one is identifying our strengths. And the last one is never stop learning. So again, in line with the previous quote, we focus on experiences and never stop learning. So let's start with the first one. Let me ask the audience, what is very often the very first question that we ask little ones, or that we have been asked when we were little, when we meet someone for the first time? Maybe in the chat box, if you can, if you're a little bit older, if you think back about many years, or if you think about, what do you want to do when you grow up? That's what Tracy remembers, and that's maybe what Tracy does. Anyone else? Anyone out there? Any age? Vera, I am not too sure. Maybe you have to expand on that a little bit as to what would the question look. What's your teacher's name? Okay, Michelle. And one last one.
Karina, could you please repeat the question?
Okay, so when we meet a young person, or actually any age, now I get it, Vera, sorry. When we meet any new person, what's the first question that we ask them? Or if we meet a little one, what is the first question that we ask them? Very often. What do you enjoy? Okay, so if I look at, there's a few questions there. What do you like doing? What school do you go to? How old are you? What do you want to do when you grow up? What's your favorite subject at school? All of those questions are actually career development questions, if you think about them. But now let me just have my picture there. I think because I have an interest in career counseling and careers, I probably also ask, one day when you're grown up, what do you want to do? I'm also always very curious to ask adults, I'm curious about jobs, and I'm curious to know more about jobs specifically, although I do know that in some cultures, I know, for example, Australia or America, sometimes they find it a little bit offensive if you ask them, what are you doing? Or what do you do for a job? But I'm really interested in that. And we ask little ones these questions, but very often I think it's quite an unfair question, because if you think about the question, the answers that they often give is they would say, I want to be a teacher, or I want to be a policeman, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a fireman. And usually it's because those are the careers that they've been exposed to. They have a teacher, they go to the doctor sometimes, they know about policemen. And so we actually don't provide them with a lot of choices and options. So from a very young age, we have to start collecting career experiences so that we can also help people or help little ones to think differently about careers, and expose them to different environments and talk to them about different careers. The activity that I'm not going to go through is just taking those same 10 skills that I've previously listed to say, how can we actually, from a very young age or throughout one's life, actually build reliability? How can you build skills in working with others? What are the activities that you've been involved in? Creativity, solving problems in a creative way, think about building puzzles, for example. It's a problem-solving activity, and even in a more creative way as well. So yes, because of time, I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's definitely building these experiences and then also making them transferable skills that we can actually take into the workplace as well, or into different workplaces as well. So I'm coming back to this table again, just to show that I would strongly suggest that you take all the experiences that you've built while you were from a very young age, that you've built, and as you move from one job to another job, almost like I've done, from moving from teaching, moving into psychology, moving into university environment, moving into JVR Academy. So those are all transferable skills, but those skills, and maybe what I didn't tell you is my parents, yeah, I did say both my parents were teachers. So it's no wonder that I actually started off as a teacher, as a music teacher. But then I started building my skills around that as well. So starting early is important. Then the next one that we have to look at is identifying your strengths. Now, although we know that these different skills that we talked about, the nice thing is we can develop them, but some of them come more naturally to others than to some of us than to others. And in such an instance, it would be regarded as a strength. And these strengths are really very important in the workplace, and they can actually be called workplace strengths. And strengths we can identify as underlying qualities that actually give us energy, it helps us to grow, and it helps us to lead to higher levels of performance. So it's very important that we understand and identify our strengths. And we can do those in different ways. For example, we can reflect on the defining moments in our lives. That could, for example, include school, or it could include part-time jobs, or volunteer work, or previous full-time or part-time work. Which are the defining moments? And identify times that you were really energized, and you can actually energize, and where you really perform to your best. And then think about what were the skills that actually help you to be like that. Of course, you also have to, you can check in with other people, you can check in with colleagues, you can check in with family, with friends, discuss with colleagues and ask them, you know, if you think about me, what are the strengths? What are my strengths? What can I bring to the workplace? And then you can also log those in line with the things that you have identified. And then the last one is, or maybe what I want to mention, I remember there was very recently, there was a CV workshop or a CV webinar presented here as well. And typically what a candidate and the work environment or the job is required will be these kinds of strengths: knowledge, skills, abilities, and attitudes. And so when an employer look at your CV, they will look at these things, but you will have to, if you don't have specific skills or experiences, you will have to link these things that you've collected, you will have to link to your CV and your to indicate how these skills actually fit the specific job that you are also applying for. Furthermore, there's also formal ways that you can actually know about your strengths, and maybe this is for another topic, but it's by completing psychological assessments, for example, where you look at personality, and those would be your typical traits or characteristics that determine our behaviors. And those personality traits you cannot really change a lot. You cannot really learn new personality traits, unlike the skills, for example, that we talked about. You can also complete interest questionnaires, or you can complete values questionnaires, or you can look at your aptitude, those more cognitive abilities that actually help you to be better at certain things than at others. And then, of course, skills is more informal assessments. You can, of course, also do informal assessments with regards to things like values. What are your values and how can those values actually contribute or be a strength in a work environment? The same with interest. It doesn't have to be a formal assessment that costs a lot of money, that you can also do it in an informal way. There's, of course, also reflect on these things in a journal. Write down some of these things while you are thinking about yourself, so that you almost have a little cheat sheet when you start developing your CV or when you start preparing for a career interview. Another informal way, and this is really not scientific at all, but these are just this is a list of qualities that we often use to describe people. And maybe we don't always have the vocabulary when we think about ourselves. So it's maybe good to go through lists like these and think, okay, am I open-minded? Am I friendly? And also give an example of situations that demonstrate that you are actually open-minded or friendly. And then the very last one before we have 3 minutes for questions is never stop learning. So yeah, I'm sure that person is no surprise at all, but no matter what your skills are, no matter what your experiences are, never stop learning. And usually there's a whole lot of useful resources that can help us learn. For example, other people. Ask people about their jobs. Ask them what do they enjoy about their jobs, what don't they like about their jobs. Find opportunities for job shadowing. Read. There's so much out there on Google that you can read. Be curious. Look for appropriate training opportunities. Social media posts. So find opportunities to develop the skills and capabilities that you think the world of work needs. Then also be an active listener. Be curious. I always say, and I know I shouldn't say this, but it's almost eavesdrop a little bit when you stand in the line at Checkers, for example, because people sometimes talk about jobs. They're talking about interesting things. So be curious. That also links on to one of the strengths that the world of work is looking for, curiosity. And then, of course, learn from role models and also anti-role models. If one gets something like that, learn from people that actually are successful, look at their qualities and try to develop those qualities. And then also look at what people, so an anti-role model in my mind would be someone that's doing stuff that is maybe not so good for the job environment, and try not to do those kinds of things. So that is literally that in a nutshell. Apologies, the last few moments were a little bit rushed, but I think it would be good if we have a few moments for